Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the Expansive CEO podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Chapman, and today my guest is Austin Netzley. This conversation is going to be so awesome. I can't wait to dive in because Austin is the founder and CEO of 2X, not X squared. He's the opposite of me, but at
Opposite but the
2X.
same.
Opposite, but this is sort of, right? Where he helps six and seven figure entrepreneurs scale faster and gain true freedom through the 2X operating system. So he really, one of his most popular books we are like in a book club season here, Austin. Like seriously, all of my recent guests have been authors with books to share. So
Mm.
one of his recent books, not the most recent, which you can tell us about, but one of his more recent books, most popular, is From Six to Seven Figures, and we're going to talk about how we do that.
Mhm.
How do we move in identity or not? What stays the same? What changes from six to seven figures, from seven to eight figures, from eight to nine figures? All of that. So, Austin, thank you so much for being here. Tell us more about why this matters to you and how you got to be this person in this
Mhm.
seat that you're in now.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Hannah. I love what you're up to and love the messages that you shared. We had some beautiful conversations, so glad it led us to this and hopefully share some good things here today for your audience. But I started out as a mechanical engineer and I knew I didn't want to actually do engineering. I just wanted the hardest thing and I didn't know what I wanted to do. The hardest thing that would give me kind of a good base to go into the business world. And I had this grand plan to get my MBA or get my engineering degree, get my MBA, and get some sales experience. And that was going to be like my trifecta that was going to get me ready to go into whatever business world I wanted to. And I thought that was going to lead up to the corporate ladder. And I started down that path and realized that wasn't it for me. I started to learn about this thing called entrepreneurship and how you can control your destiny and ultimately create what you wanted, make a bigger impact. And I started down that path. And I started four different businesses that were random stepping stones to lead me to what we do now. And to come full circle, started out as a mechanical engineering degree. Now what we do is teach people how to turn their business into a machine that can run and thrive without them. So it came full circle of we take a lot of systems and numbers and operational type approach with the same thinking to have the business be consistent, predictable, so that's not so founder dependent. So they can spend their time in their zone of genius or on vacation with their family or picking up their daughter from school or whatever it is that lights them up, and ultimately create a better, healthier business along the way. So it was this random stepping stone journey that was just like one thing to the next, to the next, to the next that ultimately led me to coaching entrepreneurs, but came pretty full circle to help turn your business into a machine.
One thing I want to mention, we're not going to like dive into this a whole lot, but I wanted to mention that you are also an emotional projector, right? In
Mm,
human design. And one of the
yeah.
things I want to like tease out here for anyone who's listening, because a lot of my listeners are familiar at least a little bit, that projectors are really here to help people improve their processes. They're here to like see everything that us, 70% of us who are generators are doing and be like, hey, you could do this so much more efficiently so
Mm,
that you can use your energy in the ways that actually light you up.
yeah.
And that is exactly what you're doing. Like it's just so in line with, um, again, like your design as a projector. And from getting to meet you in person and getting to talk to you a little bit, I also get the feeling that you are really in integrity with that as well, that you actually
Mm,
live that also. You're not the one doing all the doing in the business
yep.
because you've also created the systems and processes that allow you to do what you
Yep.
actually want to do in the business. So like in all ways, you are in integrity with this message, which I think makes it even that much more powerful and impactful to the
Yeah.
people that you're working with and teaching.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that's like an innate genius, if you will, or innate zone of genius, I should say. Because like optimization for me, systems for me, like efficiency, like all these things take zero energy, right? It's just how my brain works and how it operates. And yeah, we definitely try to live out what we talk about and have the business be able to not be dependent on me. So a long time ago, my business was way too dependent on me that I had to learn, hey, what needs to shift here to make that happen so that I could, do what I felt much more energetically aligned to, which is what you're talking about.
Yeah, and truly, like that's what we are all striving for, looking for, especially as entrepreneurs. I think, each of us has a different capacity for what we want to do or how much we want to be doing. But no matter what, like even for me, like I love having seven different plates spinning, but I want
Mm.
them to be plates that I want to spin.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
And that's the message. It's like, yeah, like we want you to be in your genius. We want you to be doing the things that you love to do, whether that's
Hmm.
in the business, whether that's at home, whether that's a sport or a hobby or whatever.
Hmm.
We just don't want the business to have to depend on you only as the only person that can keep spinning those plates in case you need a
Yeah.
break.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you will need a break, right? And you will want a break or you'll change and whatnot. So having that optionality, even if you do want to work hard, even if you do want to do certain things in the business, it's absolutely priceless. But unfortunately, few entrepreneurs actually make it there to that true freedom and true optionality.
Yeah, and so let's talk about this because the title of your most popular book is From Six to Seven Figures. And it is, what are the different things, not just the mindset, right? Because you coach people on that. Like, what's the mindset of how you have to shift
Yep,
to go from the six-figure entrepreneur to the seven-figure entrepreneur?
yep,
But recently, in the last few years, you've also been coaching people from seven to eight and eight to
yep,
nine. And
yep,
so my curiosity was, well, what stays the same, from six to seven figures? We all hear as entrepreneurs, you can't, what got you there, what got you here won't get you there. What got you to six
yeah,
figures won't get you to seven. But my initial kickback from that was like, well, I'm still me.
yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah,
like there's something has to stay the same. So my question is like, what stays the same throughout that journey?
yeah.
And then what has to change?
Yeah, good question. So the first thing that changes, or the first thing that stays the same, is that there's constant change, and most importantly, change of you, and not your core, not your essence, not your soul, like not your inner, like what's naturally innate. It's really about your time and your focus and your leadership. All right. So at the beginning, you go from doing so many things yourself, and then you start to delegate, which is phase two. Then you start to have to lead other people. Then you start to need leverage. And if you work through that cycle, then you're able to get more and more done over time with each one of those phases. But at the beginning, again, it's so much of the doing ourselves, and that's what we learn. But the thing, like I said, that's constant throughout is change. And a lot of there's these valleys of death, if you will, at certain stages of entrepreneurship, and those valleys of death are exactly where entrepreneurs have to change. So you have to go from doing to delegating, and you have to go from delegating, just getting results through your guidance, to having leaders make other decisions and get results. And then you have to go through a leveraged model that can truly scale and scale without anybody, let alone you. So there's these values of death if you don't change. So that's one thing that's constant. But like I said, another thing that's constant is your core, is your internal fire, is your internal mission, is what's unique about you. And no matter where your business is at, it has your fingerprint on it, right? And it should have that little essence, that some of your core values, some of your internal fire, and like what really lights you up, because you're the leader, you're the visionary, you're the one that sets that tone that everybody's vision fits within. And then there's a lot of things that change. Your time changes, your team changes, the importance of your operations and leadership changes as you go up one at a time. But a lot of entrepreneurs are stuck at where they're at. And the reasons why is because they're not changing, or sometimes they're trying to be way bigger than they are. And I've done this myself. I was trying to build a $10 million company when I was only at $1 million. And what we like, the name of the company, my coaching company, is called 2X, because we always want to look at where are we at and what's the simplest and most strategic path to that next level, not to 10X. And there's a book called The 10X is Easier Than 2X. It's a great book, but it's really about thinking. It's not about actually doing. And at the end of the game,
Mm.
or end of the day, business is so much a game of execution. It's strategy and execution. And most of the weight of the actual work is on execution side, right? So you've got to look at what's right in front of you and focus on execution and momentum and building momentum and building momentum. And if you double and double, double again, you just very quickly 8x your business, while others are trying to 10x overnight. That doesn't happen. So I'm sharing a lot here, but you have to constantly be aware of where you're at in your time and your focus and your leadership, and continue to evolve that as you go to the next level. But always focus on what's that next step in front of you, and just like continue to focus on execution and building consistently towards the next level. And that's how you outpace everyone.
Ooh. Okay. So literally while you were talking, I was like, oh, people are going to have to rewind this and listen to that again. Put it on
There's
half
a lot
speed.
there.
That was jam packed. Um, but what one of the things that you said at the beginning there reminded me when we were at the event we were at in person together. Um, I don't think it was, I think it was Michael Hunter that mentioned this, but he said that there were times in his business where he was trying to solve it. He was on step one trying to solve a step four problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And that's exactly what that reminded me of. And I thought that was such a pertinent thing, and especially for everyone in the room, because I have done that too, right?
Yep.
I've been like, I have put solutions in place for a problem that I wasn't having yet.
Yep.
And like that literally like dampened growth in my business
Yep.
until I fixed it, until I saw what I was doing and said was like, oh, I don't need that. I don't need that limitation because I don't have that problem yet. And so what are my question here is like what are one or two examples of that you've seen
Yeah.
where people are maybe they are at that, you know, multi six figures and they're like,
Hmm.
I'm ready to get to seven.
Yep.
Or at that, you know, the place where you're at a million, looking at 10 million.
Yep.
What are those things that you've seen people that, yeah, like too far out of a problem versus like, okay, what's the next thing?
Yeah, great question. So a couple different examples is one of the most common ones is I see a lot of entrepreneurs at multiple six figures trying to get to seven figures start to add on numerous channels. They think they need seven different marketing channels or 10 different marketing channels or to be everywhere and do all these different things from a marketing standpoint to get to seven figures. When in reality, they can probably get 80% of the way there, if not more, with one channel, right? If one channel is really focused on and really nailed and turned into a machine, that can get you to multiple seven figures. In fact, every channel that you focus on should be a seven-figure channel, right?
Mm.
That's a lot of entrepreneurs are just like scrapping and clawing. They're looking for other things. When we come in, we're like, hey, this is working pretty well, and you're not even putting any focus on it. Let's get more strategic, more systematic, and more intentional about this. Put more time and resources here, and let's scale that up. What if we could just 4x that channel? They're like, oh, that'd be amazing. And we cut out all this other stuff that's costing time, focus, resources, money, right? And holding them back that's way less efficient, way less proven. And then as we get that channel turned into a machine and scaling that's not reliant on them, requires very little of their time, then we can start to stack channels over time. But that's one of the biggest ones that we see over and over again. So we go back and simplify every part of the business, but especially on the marketing side. That's one. On the another side, where people are trying to get too big, is they think that they need this big leadership team, which again, at a certain point you will. And you attack any a problem in your business one element at a time. You eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? Attack your business one piece at a time. So as you start to make this shift of putting leaders in place, you want to start with one function. Maybe it's your head of fulfillment, head of programs or client success. Maybe it's a head of sales. Maybe it's a head of marketing. But usually the head of marketing is the hardest one. So usually that's the last one that we fully let go and put somebody in there. But it all depends on where the business and what your skill set and zone of genius is. But I was at, I think we were at probably 2 million or so. And I was trying to build towards 10 million. So I instantly built out this really cool leadership team. But our costs went through the roof. Our management costs were through the roof, which were not direct impact roles. They were indirect roles. So our profits went way down. The decision making went way slower because I was trying to have it go through other people and get their buy-in and have them make decisions and support them. And all of that is great, but not going from me basically driving almost all the results in the delegating phase that I mentioned earlier, all the way to this where I was like pretty much letting go and trying to relinquish control in every part of the business when they were changing things, doing things that I definitely like knowing from my experience and intuition probably wasn't going to work, right? But I was in this balance of like, all right, do I let them make the decision or do I fix that. And you have to make this balance and this dance as a leader because you want them to make the decision, but like you also got to do what's best for the company, right? And I put, for instance, somebody in the head of marketing role the first time, and we were growing really, really quickly at the time at multiple seven figures, probably about 2.5 million at that point in time. And this person came in and they changed everything. And our business went straight back down from a revenue standpoint. But the thing is, that wasn't necessarily the major problem. Of course, that's a problem, right? But the major problem was I didn't fix it fast enough. So I should have
Mm.
given him a runway of maybe 4 months at the kind of the pace that he was going, maybe 6 months at the most with a lot of support. I let it go almost 18 months, which cost me well over $1 million in profit in that time from the impact that our growth changed. And that was on me because I didn't fix it fast enough and I didn't transition things properly. So when you have a new leader come in, you don't want them to change everything right away if things are working. You never change things that are working. Even if you think you can do something better, you build up something better on the side while you still let run what's working, right? So I made some failures there, but those would be two ones that I would share is like trying to add on too many marketing channels before you're ready and trying to move to a true leadership team or true kind of more corporate environment well before you're ready.
So that that brings up two thoughts for me. Also going back to like what you were saying before and tagging on to what you're saying right now, you were mentioning that like doubling is a really effective, like what's the easy, I
Yep.
love that question too. What's the easy button here? Like what's the easy button to
Yep.
double versus 10x? Um, I agree with you too. I thought 10x is easier than 2x was a great book. I thought like expanding your thinking is a great way
Yeah.
to put that in, you know, into practice, but also like not, I had that same issue that you were
Yeah.
describing. That's like, okay, but again, if you're building out the platform for a $10 million business while you don't have the revenue for that yet, then like yeah, you're paying from the financial standpoint, me being the numbers person, right? I'm like, you can't
Hmm.
afford that right now.
Yeah. 100%.
Like,
100%.
so one of the questions that came up for me as you were talking was, there's been a big rise in fractional leadership.
Yep.
Do you see that as a bridge to getting, like through, especially through, maybe like 1 million to 5 or 6 million, even
Yep.
probably up to 10 for some of these different C-suite positions?
Yep. Absolutely. I love fractional and I love it, but not for all roles. So, for instance, for most businesses, ahead of fulfillment, you want somebody there full time. This person's overseeing clients, client success, fulfillment team, and programs, right? That's a lot. And you want somebody that just really lives out the DNA of your business because contrary to what a lot of people believe, like your business is not about getting leads, your business is about serving a person, right? And that happens in
Mhm.
fulfillment. So the core of your business is in fulfillment. So that role I would recommend having full time. And that's usually the easiest or one of the easier roles to have from a director standpoint. And then but from a finance standpoint, of course, a legal standpoint, a sales standpoint, these are all great ones to have somebody fractional because they don't necessarily have to necessarily live out the essence of the company. The hard one, though, is marketing. Now, you can hire somebody, and it's good to have somebody that's fractional from like a strategy standpoint, but you really want to make sure that they are aligned from an incentive standpoint to make sure that everything's clear. It's like they win if you win as a company, right? And that's hard to have from a lot of outside people. This is why agencies oftentimes don't perform well. Well, actually, agencies oftentimes don't perform well because you're giving them kind of a crap product. So you want them to
Mm.
be a hero when, in fact, what they should do is help tweak and optimize the strategy and model and positioning and messaging. And it's like some of the core things that they don't have the freedom to. That's what they really need to do to set themselves up for success. So a lot of people try to delegate responsibility in that way, and then they blame them, right? And they pay them a lot of money, but they blame them in that. No, you have to take ownership and set everybody that you hire up for success, whether it's an agency, a fractional person, a full-time person, or anybody else.
So I'm curious now, when you said that everything was working really well from a marketing standpoint, and you were at, $2.5 million in revenue per year, were you the one managing the marketing? Was that part of what you were still holding on to
Yep.
when you switched over?
Yep. So I started 2X, and this was my fifth business. And I started it intentionally in the way that I did, doing everything. Like I knew I was going to be head of marketing. I was going to be doing the sales calls myself. I was going to be doing all the coaching myself. And I had a small team of like one or two part-time people and then two full-time people. So it was a small team, but I had the very clear intention. I'm going to be doing everything myself so that I can create the systems and set the people up for success and then replace myself. And I knew I was going to have the goal within 6 months to go from doing all the sales and all the coaching myself to doing zero and never doing coaching or sales again. And within 6 months, I had coaches trained on our system. I had our systems developed, yada yada, which was the core of still what we do to this day, 7 years later. And also out of sales at that point in time. So I still owned head of marketing, and I drove that up to at least about 2.5 million, maybe a little bit more, and then handed that off. Um, and then I was completely out of all the day-to-day roles. I was still the face. So if the team needed me from like ads standpoint or whatnot, and I enjoy writing books, so I write a book every couple years. But outside of that, I was completely out of the day-to-day, able to travel a lot and go everywhere. And by doing that, that allowed me to work on the highest impact things and the things that I enjoy and have a ton of freedom. But yeah, yes, marketing was the last one to let go.
So once you did find the right person, turn the marketing ship around, I'm curious how that went too. How did you turn it around from an 18-month downslide?
I took it back over myself, actually. Yeah, took it back over myself, got it back up and running, and then put somebody back up in place. But this time I did it a little bit slower as far as hiring more support from a day-to-day standpoint. But before I did any of that, I had to basically clean everything up. We had at least two, if not three times the amount of people that we should have had on the marketing team. So I cut out so many people on the marketing team, reduced costs dramatically, and we just increased a speed and we increased the efficiency. We definitely increased margins by doing so. And I think that we actually got the same amount, if not more, done. There was just way too much bloat in management because the person that was leading it, one of his key factors is like he wasn't doing a lot himself, like hands on. And the marketing role, especially in a small business, is usually one that you want to get hands on. You got to be a little bit gritty in the way that you're working things until you can prove them out in such a way that then you can systemize and scale it. But a lot of people try to systemize and scale things too fast, and I did that myself.
So again, this is like super, super important for you to one to be sharing from your personal experience because literally like to get to, multiple million dollars, multiple seven figures, and then experience a downturn and then to pick it back up and turn it around again to where
Yep.
you're at now. That's huge. So many lessons learned there, which I'm sure in the moment you're like, God damn it. But
Oh, it was expensive. It was frustrating. It was that 18 months, honestly, was the most stressful period that I had. And then the second most stressful period of entrepreneurship that I had was after that, when I had to go through and cut over half of our team, right? And that's never fun. And it was the right thing to do at the same time. And by doing so, we made a couple tweaks, but we still had about the same capacity, but our revenue went down a little bit, but our profits like 3 or 4x. So in fact, we were making more profits with less people, way less stress. And unfortunately, I had to let people go, but honestly, they weren't winning themselves either. So we set them off to a better opportunity.
well, you make a really, really important point there too, from the financial standpoint of revenue and profit are not equal.
Yeah.
That's having, if you're making $5 million in revenue and it's costing you $4 million to get there or $4.9 million to get there, that's not a business that feels good to run. Usually, that's where the stress lives, the burnout, all of, especially burnout, I think. And even, thinking back to uh, Profit First, Mike Michalowicz, bringing up just another book here. Like that's one of the things that he really evangelizes about basically, right? It's like
Yeah.
getting people out of entrepreneurial poverty is what he calls it. But
Hmm.
a big piece of it is you got to be really, really mindful of who you hire, when you hire, how many people you have on.
Hmm.
That was one of the main early lessons that he talks about in the book that he
Hmm.
had, probably around a similar revenue level too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's super important to really, really get to the core of what do you want? This is the hardest question to answer, right? It's like, what do you really, really want? Because oftentimes, in the way that we grow up in entrepreneurship and what we see online, the whole game is revenue. Like you win by revenue, right? If you get a seven-figure business or you make this amount of money in a launch or whatever, that's what you talk about. But at the end of the day, what you really want are certain other things. Like you want purpose, you want a certain amount of money to live your lifestyle, right? So like what is that amount of money? Once we really get clear on that, then let's design the business and model and strategy to go and achieve that. So I share this as an example to say it is way easier. Like, let's say when we really break it down to live an amazing lifestyle for your family and take care of your kids and everything, you want to make $500,000 per year. Okay, let's just say that that's the case. So you can, per your example, you can have a $5 million business and $4.5 million in expenses, and you can make 500K a year, right? Or you can have $1 million business and have 500K in expenses, and you can have a $500K per year income, right?
Yeah.
Same exact thing, but it's way easier on the second path, right? So let's do that. Right. And oftentimes we have to retrain ourselves that that's okay to do that. It's okay to not focus on the biggest revenue if it's our real goal to achieve this. Right. And we've had some clients with eight-figure businesses making way less than businesses with six-figure businesses, right? Which is pretty crazy to think about. But there's so many different ways to shake it and to shake the wealth that you can create in business. Because if you're planning to exit, that's a completely different game. So we really like to just work with every entrepreneur to get really, really clear on what they want and not just take some general answer. Like a lot of people come in like, I want to make $1 million per year, or I want to be a millionaire. Okay, great. Why? Why? Let's get down to the core of what you really want. And once we
Yeah.
get clear on that, we often see, hey, you're a lot closer than you think. And if we just make a little bit of tweaks to your strategy and model, we can get there pretty fast. And so let's go and do that. And let's live your dream right now. Let's not wait.
What I am hearing from you and feeling, also like there's like you have a very encouraging energy around like, hey, this can be easy, right?
Yeah.
And that to me makes
Not
it feel
easy, easier and simple,
easier,
but it's
right?
gonna be hard. Yeah.
You still have to do the work, right? There,
Yeah.
you always have to put in the work, but there's a sense of like, again, like, what if we come down to this essential
Yeah.
and make that essential work really well,
Yeah.
is what I'm hearing. Oh my gosh, and Zoom's just giving me fireworks. Thank you. I don't know how that happened. But yeah, so the like dialing the essentials, getting rid of the bloat, not over hiring. These are some of the things I'm hearing. You repeat over and over, like let's make sure we hold on to those ones. What about that next step? What
Mhm.
about the seven-figure entrepreneur in your shoes, right? Making $2 to $5 million in revenue per year
Yeah.
with a healthy profit margin, feeling like, okay, we're doing good. Things are moving, things are humming. The vision is expanding.
Mhm. Yeah.
What again, same question. What stays the same and what changes most dramatically from that 7 to 8 figure switch?
Yeah. I think one of the things that should stay the same a lot of times, it doesn't necessarily have to. It really depends on your vision and your goals. But if you do want to scale from 7 to 8 figures, I think one of the things that has to stay the same is that hunger and drive. Now, what happens at this point in time is a lot of people get comfortable, right? Like we don't necessarily know this consciously, like we wouldn't say it, but we get comfortable. Like you got more than enough money, you're making more money than ever. You do have some control and time freedom. You've developed a lot as a leader. You got a lot of confidence. So you have a lot more just peace of mind just in your abilities and business and everything. So at this point in time, a lot of people kind of and at this point in time, they've delegated some different responsibilities. So they don't have that same hunger to drive results to the next level, right? And if that's not your goals, that's okay. Right. But if you do want to go, you got to keep that grit without being necessarily in the day to day. You have to keep that grit without having the pressure of not being able to make payroll in 2 weeks like you have sometimes when
Right.
you're starting out, right? So um, that's one thing that should stay the same. But again, so many things start to change. The importance of operations really goes up exponentially as you get to the seven-figure and beyond level. The importance of your leadership goes up exponentially. The importance of your team and the difference between an A player and B player is exponential, right? Like you pay, let's say, 40% more on average for an A player versus a B player, but you get 4 times the value. They bring new results. They create new systems. They save you time. They bring in better people and create a better culture around you. They make a better client experience. Yeah, like there's so many different reciprocal effects of the right people. So all of these are exponential moves that compound on top of each other. And if any one of the areas of your business is off, it's going to hold everything else back, but you need them all to just continually to go up in level. And if they do, again, they compound on top of each other. So, but look, the more you want to scale, the more leverage that you need, and leverage comes from having the right strategy and model, keeping things really, really simple and focused and strategic. People, systems, and just applying the right focus to the right things. And if you do those, it's like with a scalable model, it's limitless what's possible. It's really just dependent on your mindset, leadership, and the strategy and systems that you put in place.
So what I'm hearing is it almost is like reminding me that the metaphor that's coming up is like a baseball team, right? From like uh, minor leagues to maybe not even maybe like a high school, like a really good high school team
Hmm.
to a really good college team
Yep.
to the major leagues, right?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
what's happening is that the fundamentals are getting really dialed in to the
Yep.
point where like then in the college to pro, like you're not going to see in the pros hardly, or you shouldn't anyway, right? You shouldn't see someone totally missing a fundamental
Yep.
like
100%.
that unless something is very wrong, right? Like, oh,
Yep.
that person had a stroke midfield or something, right? Like you're not going to see that. Where you might see those mistakes in college ball sometimes, definitely in high school, right? Like the fundamentals aren't completely dialed in. Um, but that then what starts to shift then in the pros is kind of like what magic does each player bring?
Hmm.
And so maybe that metaphor extends to like what's your leadership team when you're saying the A players, right? It's like, okay, well now we are picking people for like what's your special expertise? What's your, it in the CFO seat, in the marketing seat, in the
Hmm.
VP of sales seat, or maybe a CRO, chief revenue officer, or something like that, right? Like picking people for their little dose of magic that they bring
Yep.
to that 8-figure company.
Yep.
I
I think this is a super important analogy because like it's because obviously some people go from high school to college to pros, like that you have to kind of almost go through that general progression. And as entrepreneurs, like, some people go from 6 figures to 7 figures to 8 figures and beyond, right? So, but what you want to think about is from your team standpoint, is like, who are those people that you want to do the next 5 or 10 or 20 years with? Who are those people that can
mm,
grow with you through those stages? Because if you look at the high school team versus the college team versus the pro team, 90% or more are different, right? And a lot of times you're going to have to change your team and your people as you grow. And that sucks a lot of times because you
mm,
build relationships with them and you're loyal to them and they're loyal to you, right? But as you think about that and that analogy, you want to be thinking about, hey, who are those people? We call it the forever team strategy. It's like, who do you want to be working with forever? Who can grow with you? Who can mold with you? Who's so compelled by the big mission, even though it's pretty far away? That they will be able to go through there from an intelligence capability standpoint, from a skill standpoint, from just a growth orientation standpoint, from a culture standpoint. And if you can start to build those people, it just makes it so much easier to not have to rehire as you go to the next step, but don't be afraid to have to rehire and make those changes as you do go. So I just wanted to share that because it's a super good analogy to think about the people aspect of it because that will change.
Oh, so good. I'm glad I mentioned it. The other thing I wanted to ask was I know you've been doing some research and like case studies and looking at some different things around this um, kind of, well, I mean, 8 to 9 figure exit, right? And so
Yep.
I'm curious if there's anything that you've discovered that's maybe a little different or a little nuance or something that you are, excuse me, excited to explore a little bit further as you've been digging into some of these by case studies. I mean, like people that you've worked with. This is not
Yeah.
going out, right? And like finding other people. This is the work that you've already done. But
Yeah. Literally, the past couple of weeks, I've been working with some friends and clients on scaling their business to a nine-figure exit, which is over $100 million, right? And it's been super cool to see that. And you know what's been the craziest part is as you dive into some of these businesses, you see that they're really the same as we see it as like a low seven-figure business. Like the difference between a $2 million per year a business is not too dissimilar to what we see as a company that's at $50 million in revenue per year and worth $100 million total enterprise value. Like it's not mind-blowingly different, and I think that's a really important thing to just say at the end of the day. It's just numbers. Like your business is just a math equation. It's just a different size. It's a different mentality to get there. Of course, you have to go back and work through the progressions that we've been talking about earlier to kind of get there. But once you have a proven model and you've got the operations, then it's just a matter of scaling that, right? And we've seen that time and time again. We've helped so many clients scale from 6 to 7 figures, some from 7 to 8, some from 8 to 9, and some from 7 to 9 all the way up, So it's all possible, and it's really cool to see inside. And one of my favorite quotes, actually, that changed my life is from Steve Jobs. He said, "Everything in this room is created by people just like you and I." So as soon as you take out this world of like, oh, I can't do it, or that's not possible, or they did that, or whatever, and you realize, hey, it is possible, and it's actually a lot more simple than you think. It's not necessarily easy, but it's a lot simpler and it's a lot more clear than you think. As soon as you can connect the dots on that and believe that, that's honestly the hardest part. Then from there, again, it's going back to, do you have the model validated? Do you have the operations and scalability in place? Boom, let's put those two together and actually drive the growth. Then it's crazy what's possible. But the cool thing is if you build operational excellence with a proven model, then you just start to scale and stack things. You start to grow the channels that you have. You add on new channels, then you add on new products, then you expand, nationally, or you expand in some other ways. And it's just you start to acquire other pieces and bring it under. Like you're literally playing chess with the business because you have operational excellence. So that is the absolute key that makes the big difference where people scale from, let's say, under 2 million to over 20 million is just it's just, pretty much operational excellence then applying leverage.
oh my gosh, so that is so cool to hear you say after the research that you've been doing and the work that you've been doing, and just to give people that kind of that touch point of,
Hmm.
hey, like it really isn't rocket science.
Hmm.
It really isn't, but it is, again, getting really clear and clean on the fundamentals. And
Hmm.
like you said, operational excellence. I think what comes to me with that is that it feels much more tangible.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
It feels like, oh, like, okay, if I feel like I can do that.
Yeah.
To me,
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah,
comes
for
up for
sure.
me is like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah, for sure. And it comes up for me as well. And like honestly, I've been waiting for years. I'm like, oh, I'm not ready for that. I need this experience, or I should do this for, another year or two, or I need this or whatever. And then I just like we've helped clients get there. I'm like, hey, let me come and see what you're doing like on the day to day. Because I know with their strategy, I've been giving a lot of coaching or whatever on the in general support. And just kind of getting behind the scenes, like you see, yes, they have a better team. Yes, they have some things really dialed, but at the end of the day, it's way simpler. It's not this crazy complex thing. It's not like the inside of your phone or anything. Like, you don't have to create the internet here. Like there's very simple businesses at the end of the day. In almost every single industry, there's somebody out there that is absolutely killing it. And the thing that always pains me to think about is there's people out there working way less hard than you are, and they're way less intelligent and they're making a lot more. So as soon as you can connect the dots with some of those examples, you can see, okay, I'm missing something. So let me go get the exposure to connect the dots to understand that. Then you just reverse engineer that. So me doing this and seeing some of these, nine-figure exits kind of behind the scenes, it just has me more confident than ever that I'm ready. I've been ready, in fact, to go towards that. And we're super excited to be making some moves in that direction.
Well, Austin, I want to say that I find you to be super fascinating in the like the electrical engineer side. And again, being a financial advisor, I've worked with a lot of engineers who are very engineery, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's no shade, but there can be like definitely that like that extreme focus on data and making sure everything is perfect and wanting to understand every single part of, from my perspective, a financial plan or how that modeling works, all of that, right?
Yep.
Very deeply familiar. But you bring, so it's like you have that side of you that's like, let's figure it all out. Let's again, like make it a machine that works really well. But you have a whole side that's very heart centered, that's very um, just like caring about the people that you work with
Mm,
and like seeing them in a new way. I think that
mm,
you just kind of bring this different energy to it of like, we're going to figure it out and I care about you and your business.
mm, mm,
Um, that is unique, I think. And so I
mm.
appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I appreciate that as well. I had my chart read actually a couple of days ago, and she said I'm basically an alien in human form because of exactly what you're sharing. She said I've got this crazy side of like attention to detail and yeah, just like obsessive attention to detail, and then on this side a lot of care and heart. And she's like those two things don't always connect with other people because they don't understand the dichotomy of those all in one, right? So it's
Hmm.
funny that you're sharing that as well. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I feel similar in that space, like with financials, like the logical, the here's how we do it, here's how it works in the world. And then also we have to bring on the heart. We have to understand how you
Hmm.
feel, understand the emotions, right? So I feel like
Hmm.
um, bridge builder sees bridge builder, maybe
Yeah, yeah,
is the way
yeah,
to
yeah,
say
for
that.
sure. For sure. Yeah.
Well, Austin, how one, you did write a new book recently, right? So you've got a
Yeah.
new book that you can tell people about, but then how also can people find out more about you, listen to more of what you have to say, or work with 2X if they're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is exactly what I need.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the new book that you mentioned is called The 2 Week Vacation Test. It's how to build your business to run and thrive without you. So if you're too stuck in the day to day, definitely check that book out. It works through 7 simple steps to ultimately break the attachment and honestly the addiction that we have to our business that we don't usually know consciously. But my main book is called From 6 to 7 Figures. And if you're under 2 million, and honestly, even if you're above 2 million, I would recommend it. As we talked about before we pressed record, there's a lot of big text in it. There's tables, there's visuals, there's things that I like to say slap you over the head with clarity to just make it super easy to digest the key points. And it shows you the difference between a hustler and a CEO, so you can make that shift to get free from the day to day, working on your business in your zone of genius. And if you do that with operational excellence, you really have optionality that you can choose to scale much faster and go to 8 figures. You can take a step back and just have a lot more freedom. You can sell your business for millions of dollars. Like it literally creates optionality. So no matter your goals, it's the same general approach that we take to get there. So I think one of those 2 books would help. And honestly, that's the best place to start is From 6 to 7 Figures or the 2 Week Vacation Test. And you can find those on our website, 2x.co. 2x number 2 letter x.co. We also just acquired operations.com, so we've got some really cool things coming out there as well, to help people with operations to get more out of their team, their time, and get free from the day to day so they can build the business and life that they know is possible. So much more to come on those 2 resources, but check them out, start with the books, and I'm hopeful that they'll help.
Well, Austin, thank you so much for being here today and sharing this time with me. It truly is special. I know you have a choice of how you spend your time. So I'm honored that you came onto the podcast and we're open to sharing all of this with the listeners. Just such good information, something that I know a lot of people, a lot of my listeners are striving for currently. And just to feel the encouragement of like, hey, this is possible. Hey, there are ways that we can make it easier. Still got to do the work, but we can make it
Yeah,
easier. And I really appreciate it. So thank you
yeah,
so much.
absolutely. I appreciate you and love what you're doing. So I appreciate you, Hannah.
That's it for this episode. Thanks for listening, and be sure to like and subscribe. And again, if anything resonated with you from this episode, I would love to hear from you. Email me at Hannah, HANNAH, at expansiveceo.com and tell me about it. And if you're ready for your greatest expansion, you can find ways to work with me at expansiveceo.com and at x2wealthplanning.com. That's X, the numeral 2, wealthplanning.com. So until next time, remember that there is enough, you are enough, and your birthright in this lifetime is to be expansive.